For dessert, a little butterscotch apple crispy. So let's get started on that butterscotch first. You're gonna need to take about 2 tablespoons of butter and melt it over medium-low heat. As the butter's melting, you can go ahead and add 1/4 cup of firmly packed brown sugar. I recommend using a nice dark brown sugar for this particular recipe. I feel that the dark brown sugar, instead of light brown sugar, imparts a better butterscotchy flavor. So you just want to get these all combined together. Get the butter all melted and the brown sugar all dissolved in it. Just like that. Leave it on a medium-low heat and allow it 5 to 10 minutes to start to bubble. I'm whisking it in order to keep the brown sugar and butter all combined. But this is what you're looking for. You're looking for a nice layer of bubbles to form across the entire surface, and you're looking for your, like I said, butter and brown sugar to be completely combined together. Now it's time to add some heavy cream to this. A 1/2 cup of delicious heavy cream. Just gonna add it right in there, making sure to scrape out the bowl because the heavy cream is so thick that it will stick. And you really wanna make sure you get it all in there for the best result. Now, whisk the heavy cream, the butter, the brown sugar together until you have one smooth texture. It should be velvety and a nice dark caramely golden brown. There we go. That's the sort of texture that we're looking for. No more little lumps, just one smooth sauce. So bring this up to a low boil and let it go for about 10 minutes to find itself. Ooh, the butterscotch is progressing very nicely. I gotta tell you, this is an amazing sauce. You're gonna wanna eat it all with a spoon. So I'm just chopping up my pink lady apple here. I love pink lady apples. They have a nice tartness and a good body to them. Do a really good job in baking. I just chopped it up in a nice little chunks. You don't really have to get too fussy about what size your chunks are. And the butterscotch has been simmering for about 10 minutes, so it's time to take it off the heat and let it start cooling down a little bit. While that does its thing, I'm gonna go ahead and get the topping ready. Have 1/2 cup here white sugar and about 1/2 cup of flour, about 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and that egg yolk. Need a spatula. Okay. Get it all scraped in there. You want every little precious drop of that egg yolk in the crust. And start milling it up with your fingers. Mill it until you have a crumbly, yummy texture. And if you're not seeing a real crumbly texture come together, it just means you need a little more moisture in there. So add it in, maybe a teaspoon or so at a time. Continue milling it together until you get that crumbly texture. There we go. Oh, that's going to be delicious. And get it all scraped off your fingers here because you're going to want that on the crusty, not in the bottom of your sink, or on the crispy. Inevitably, some of it's going to end up in the sink though. Let's work on finishing off the flavor profile of the butterscotch first. So you're going to need a couple things. A little bit of vanilla extract and a little bit of salt. And this is totally one of those season it to taste kind of deals. Give the butterscotch a little taste, assess its stickiness. Really good, but it's not butterscotch yet. You're gonna need to add a couple drops of vanilla extract and a couple shakes of salt. Add it in very small amounts, tasting between each step. Wow, with each addition of vanilla and salt, you get closer and closer to that classic butterscotch flavor. This is totally one of those things that I do probably 3 or 4 times to find that perfect flavor. It's really fun how it progresses. So creamy, so rich. Just that little hint of salt on the background. Absolutely incredible. Now, I'm gonna be making the crispy in 2 cute little dishes since there's just 2 of us. We'll each have our own individual. Take about half the apple, splitting it. And then I'm gonna pour a whole lot of this awesome butterscotch sauce over the apples. I'm gonna reserve just enough to garnish it when we sit down to eat it. Give it a loving little toss. Get them all coated and loved up in the butterscotch goodness. While you're at it, toss in just a pinch of flour to each pot. That's gonna help the apples to set up and not run. You want to get the flour to coat all the surfaces of the apples. Flatten them out, kind of squish them and compact them. And then sprinkle on your crumb topping. And bury the little apples in their dishes. And then let's get these in the oven. So we're just gonna slide these on in, right above the tenderloin roast. They're gonna take about 30 minutes, and they can absolutely cook in there together. And one little trick for making the crust extra crispy is that when they're done, you just prop the door open a little bit and let them cool down in the oven. Oh, very nice. You want to see a nice little bubbling around the outside. That tells you that the apples are cooked and the filling is done. So we're going to turn off the oven. And now time for the magical trick that makes the topping very crunchy and crispy. Leave the door open a crack and allow the moisture to evaporate out as it cools.